just wanted to take out the background sounds that our instruments are making. But yeah, Rory kind of said our intro that we wrote specifically for this lecture, this talk. But I will introduce ourselves again. I'm Grace.
Maddie.
And yeah, this is Mosquito Farm alongside all of the objects that we bring with us and all the instruments that we make. I think of it as a performance art kind of project as much as a music one, I guess.
You said art band the other day.
Yeah, or artist band. I suppose within that, like within the term performance art, I think of music as being one of the possible outcomes of any performance, but because of the kind of choreography that we come up with and the structures of the performance, there's a large visual element, and there's often kind of situations or states that we want to achieve throughout the performance.
Mm-hmm. Like tasks we give ourselves or something.
Yeah, like parameters that we set ourselves, and that dictates how the sound goes, I guess,
mm-hmm.
as much as it dictates how we move our bodies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess. Any further things to add to that introduction? Or?
Don't think so.
Yeah.
Not yet.
I guess we performed quite a lot. Maybe actually only twice so far this year, but last year we were doing a lot of gigs, mostly in music, like DIY music places like Avalon Cafe and Ormside Projects, which is a club at Cafe Otto.
The side of the posters up.
Yeah. So yeah, these are some of the gigs that we played last year. One of them that Rory put on. One at the Amersham Arms. Has anyone been to the Amersham Arms in New Cross? Yeah.
I love it and hate it.
Spent a lot of time there, so it was quite funny to play in there.
One that we put on?
Yeah, one that we put on in the Set Bar in Peckham. But I would say for the most part, most of the gigs that we've had have been in music spaces. And I think this is because there's more opportunities available to perform in spaces like that as opposed to gallery spaces. Mm-hmm. Even though we've both come from like a fine art sculpture background, that's what I studied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Obviously, like there being performances or gigs programmed every night or multiple times a week, and an exhibition's duration is like multiple weeks, so or more or less than that. So I think
it's
that's
completely
why
different structure, isn't it? It's
yeah,
like less precious or something. Or
yeah, exactly. I think that it's quite interesting that we've kind of moved into those spaces only since we started. We always would visit them. We'd go to lots of gigs, but only since we've started this have we started really performing in those kinds of spaces. And I think it felt like there being the opportunity to do that, there being more opportunities to do that was. Yeah, we've had lots more things to do since we started doing this, basically, when we were kind of making more like sculptural work or, more kind of traditional exhibition making practices. So I think the next slide that we have is the second performance that we ever did at the Horse Hospital, which is a venue in Holborn, Russell Square kind of area.
Put on by our friends, and there were loads of, they invited, it was a residency, wasn't it, I think?
Yeah.
They invited loads of people to perform over 2 days.
Yeah, by a band called Gentle Stranger, and they asked lots of performers to come and take part in it. So the performance is kind of structured around unpacking and repacking a suitcase which was filled with the objects that we had. Mm-hmm. So this is a kind of edited version of it. Oh no, it's not going to play.
It's the link thing.
Oh, it's a link.
Oh, rubbish.
Hopefully this will give you a better idea of like what it sounds like. But we'll also do a live demonstration as well.
I think I edited out about 6 times trying to get those balls to drop at the end.
Oh really? To get the sound to match
so
up.
much longer.
Yeah. I feel like the ball drop moment in that, the lottery moment, is no, don't play random video. Is like quite a good example of like a structure that we set up to facilitate the performance, or to like change a state, or to kind of make something happen. Should I get rid of that? Is it a bit distracting? We'll leave this now.
I don't know what it is.
Go away. But yeah.
Was it gone?
No, it's fine. It's just here.
You're a tech wizard.
Yeah.
Doing that.
Yeah. So like in terms of a structure that we'd set up, I don't know if you can think of any other examples of that, but
Of which one? The ping pong balls?
yeah, of like a sort of structure that we'd set up to like perform within.
Well, there's one that we didn't actually end up doing, the one that you wanted to sing at Ormside. Grace wanted to turn as many instruments on, and then once she'd done that, she would pick up a microphone like this, and then like the idea was that if I couldn't stop her from turning all of these instruments on at the same time, she would pick up the mic and start singing.
But we never made it to that point, which was good.
That's probably good,
for me. Probably good for me. But yeah, I think sometimes that can lead to things having a like comedic or funny element. But our demeanour when we perform is quite serious. Like we don't smile that much, I would say.
No.
We might be smiling now, but during the performance, we look quite serious, and but there's kind of silly stuff going on, and we have like we're using ping pong balls and like cocktail umbrellas, and that's kind of like the genre of object that we are more drawn to, I think, within the performances. Latex gloves.
That was the only time that we did actually laugh, I think.
Yeah. That was the first performance that we did.
We got our friend to play a pipe as well, but they had no idea what it was going to sound like, and then and neither did we really.
Yeah.
I don't think, and it ended up being this really high pitched sort of like kazoo sound, and it was because we had all been really serious like the whole way through. I felt like it was a bit mean.
Yeah.
They were so surprised.
So I think now we can move into like giving you a bit of an example of what we do and like the sounds that the objects that we build, the instruments that we build make. Does that sound good? Or do you want to see this video first? The Cafe Auto video?
Let's play that one first.
Okay, so this is
what we're talking about.
This is one of the more recent gigs that we did in January. It was at Cafe Auto, and I think compared to the Horse Hospital gig, we'd kind of moved into a different kind of performance.
It was like a year and a bit later, wasn't it? Like almost a year and a half later.
Where we'd spent time working out different kinds of sections, different kinds of sounds, moving, kind of dictating the performance rather than this overall structure, but there were still elements of that within it. So these fans here, for example, produce quite like different pitch drones. So the start of the performance is a kind of like using those to make basically a sequence of drones that was about 10 minutes long.
Yeah, and I was using a strings instrument that we'd made out of a Sports Direct shelving, but like trying to match the drone sound that you were making.
This is about a 3-minute excerpt from the middle. to this spot. But I think it kind of, you can see there's a lot more stuff than the video we showed you before. So in a year and a half, we managed to build quite a lot.
Yeah.
We changed what we did quite a lot, and that was just through doing it again and again and again and again.
And I guess this is the kind of place where we don't really have many constraints. Like with the horse hospital, there was we had a time constraint and a space constraint.
Yeah.
So like this is what it is at like full potential.
Yeah,
maybe.
full capacity.
Full capacity.
And this is quite a good example of like the kinds of motorized elements to the work, which Maddie is definitely like the pro expert at creating and making, and she had done a lot of work with that before we started Mosquito Farm. A lot of motorized sculpture and electronics. That was
Yeah. It's I think I'm drawn to it a bit more because I don't have to decide what it sounds like, and I just turn it on and then
it has its own sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this, there's like this spring instrument here, which we have. Down there. I don't know if people can see it. Do you want to turn it on so people can hear it? I think it's one of the ones that, I mean, it takes a certain amount of time to go around, and within that time there's a range of sounds that you'll hear through it, and that for us was another example of a sort of parameter or constraint that allowed us to compose around, basically. It's not very loud on the main mixer, the yellows. I put it down. It's got two settings. I don't even know how. I think I came into the studio one day and you'd made that, and I was like, wow, okay. that's amazing. But I don't know, there's just two different strings that make two slightly different sounds when they're pulled by this big motor.
I think when I made it, I was a bit like, oh god, what is that? I didn't think it was good. And then you came in and you were like, huh? Oh. And then you came in and you, I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes we work separately, I guess, and sometimes we work together. So occasionally we're working, and like we're in the room at different times. We have different work schedules, different jobs. So, but we share a studio now. So one person might go and build something, the other one will come in and see it.
But it's all made on the farm.
Yeah.
Oh, but this one from this rotation we made like a whole section, didn't we? That we play again and again, and
we kind of
like timed certain instruments to play with it.
Yeah.
We didn't really bring it, did we? Lots of the tracks that we make, or the music in the performance, is dictated by what? Dictated by like one instrument or something. Grace is always the one that sorts out the AV. And I'm just like...
Sorry, I just had to reopen the slideshow. It's gone. Okay, well next. Sorry, I'm having some trouble with the Google Slides. It's not very good.
You're doing amazingly. I don't know how you
Okay, so we're going to show you our first gig actually next.
Little
The first gig that we performed was at a space called Limbo, which is an artist-led project space near Burgess Park in Peckham.
Mm-hmm.
We were invited to perform by, again, our friends Alex and Tom, who are in a band called Gentle Stranger. And it was a musician called Arthur Chambry, who's a Belgian musician who sings and performs this kind of like folk homemade instruments. You can see he's got these clogs on here, and he uses his body a lot, and he walks around the space.
Very high energy.
Yeah, it was very beautiful. I wonder if I can. Yeah, that was a video at one point, but it isn't anymore. But so we were asked to perform by Alex, who said that everybody who performed had to make their own instruments in order to be in the performance, and that's kind of where this started as a thing. It started the idea, and
we'd never made any instruments before.
That was the first time that I'd ever tried to do that before.
Yeah.
I performed in other contexts, performed music in other contexts, but not with instruments that I'd made.
I'd never done anything like it before. It was I was completely, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, get me out of here.
But yeah, everything that we had was on these tables that you can see at the bottom. Mostly percussive instruments with a few elastic bands that you'll probably hear. There we go.
Oh, here we go.
So yeah, this is like us going back in time, really. Considering how long ago it was. And how much what we've done has changed and developed since then.
We were mainly just hitting things, weren't we?
Yeah.
Seeing what it sounded like when it got hit with something.
Obviously some things have carried through, like some of these things we still use, but mostly I would say that it's quite different now. I think now we'll probably show you what we do live. that's like something we'd been kind of working out in the studio, but not for very long before we started this, because we've got a few performances coming up in the summer. So we thought we'd try and show something new, or use this as an opportunity to work something new out.
Credits to Ivan.
Yeah. But yeah, someone else was coming in and visiting when we were trying to work this out. Yeah. So that the balls, like throwing the balls against the wall thing, was like maybe the newer element to it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of replacing other things that we might have used that were more like drums, which is obviously quite clear, I think.
We've used them quite a lot, quite differently in the past. Like, I think the ping pong balls are as much about the sound as them being a prop, kind of, and for the performances. And like, so in the past we've used them as ways of playing our pipes. So we would use the air from the pipes to move the ping pong balls around the room, and so the noise from the pipes is dictated by how hard it is to get a ping pong ball from A to B.
Before we started preparing, or as we were preparing for this, we were thinking about what it means to make an instrument as opposed to play one that exists in the world, and kind of the idea of remaking the world, or remaking things that already exist in the world. And I think it's quite a hard question to answer, but I think there's something that's definitely like what you're able to achieve, whether it's just the quality of the sounds that these things make, the way that they look, the atmosphere that they provide is incredibly different. Also, like I think there's the amount that we're able to have happening at the same time. You know, there's not an easy answer to the question other than that we started doing it and then we continued doing it and we're still doing it, basically. And there's been, you know, people that have continued to ask us to do it as well.
I think with making our own ones, though, we work with the limitations of what it can do as much as what it can do. We work with the limitation. Yeah, did I say that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Whereas, like, if I tried to pick up a guitar or something, I think I'd be overwhelmed with possibilities.
Yeah. And they're so delicate, and they require so much attention from us. That in terms of performers, like how we perform or how we appear as we perform, I think that it allows us to enter a space where we're not behaving so differently than as we would in the world, as we move through the world, as me and Maddie. And I don't know, like, I think that's quite a nice space to reach you with performing. Where you could be yourself.
Yeah. And we're performing as much as they are. Like, we're sort of amongst them and acting as a part as much as any of it.
Yeah, kind of like tending to them as opposed to like playing them sometimes.
Yeah, there's the complete mix, isn't there, of our interaction. Sometimes it's just turning them on, and sometimes it's like making sure they don't break, or like actually playing them because they actually have capacity to make.
I think when we wrote Bio a long time ago, like I just read the phrase like object theatre in a book that was about loft, like 1970s New York loft performance art, and there were a lot of people around that time that were using objects, even making their own instruments. I think there's an artist called like John Zorn who was making sort of small objects that were kind of used to like art music scores, and there was someone called Stuart Sherman who made lots of performances out of things coming out of suitcases and putting them on tables. There was an artist who used a spud gun to shoot his artwork, which may have been where we got that idea from. But I don't know, there was something about that, like the phrase object theatre, that I thought kind of in a way suits what we do. It's quite theatrical.
Grace is very theatrical.
Yeah, it can be quite theatrical. I think I don't know why, I just was drawn to that as a term to use to describe this. And the art that I was reading about from that time felt somehow like it had a really strong connection to what we'd ended up doing, even before I'd really found out what it was. But yeah, it was from a book called Rituals of Rented Island, I think, or something like that. I think it's in the UAL library. Go check it out. Right.
Is this the logistics section?
Yeah, so we have a lot of stuff, as you can see.
Lots of it from the street?
Yes, a lot of the stuff that we find, Maddie finds. And she brings it home.
It's a big storage problem.
Yeah, she brings it back to the studio.
And
she can drive as well, so that's a plus. Although on this is a bike.
I actually strapped that to my back. I looked ridiculous. People saw me. Eleni saw me. I looked like ridiculous. Anyway. Oh yeah. This is this it? Yeah. This is some of it, like that I just got lots of boxes.
This is all Maddie. This is all Maddie. The categorising of objects into different boxes with their material qualities.
Yeah.
That's the total Maddie vibe.
Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's a massive hindrance.
Yeah. It's not. It's never a hindrance. It's amazing. It means that you always know where everything is. I'm the opposite. I am very chaotic and very messy, and yeah, which is probably why it works for me. This is a studio that we work from now. We only moved in. It looks really big and really nice, and it is really big and really nice, but it's not really expensive. It's in Set Woolwich. I don't know if anyone's been there. They have a club, loads of studios. There's about 400 people in there.
It's like 13 floors or something.
Yeah. I mean, I know that a lot of you will probably be making like some work will require having a studio and some won't. But if there are set studios going when you graduate, like they are quite a good option because they're quite cheap.
And it comes with a big community as well. And
yeah, that's where we met as well.
Yeah.
We met in the corridor and became good friends, and then started working together, and then started making music together and performances. I guess it's a good opportunity to talk about, like, although we spend a lot of time doing this. We spend a lot of time working on making the instruments and a lot of time developing the performances and rehearsing and performing. There are other things that we have to do as well, and we both have kind of separate art practices to this. And we also both have to work and earn money and pay for the studio and the cabs, the van hire, etc.
And the parking fines.
Yeah. So yeah, it exists in the structure of lots of other things that we have to do.
Antisocial working hours.
Sometimes, yeah.
Often.
Yeah. What's that? That's just some more photos of it. One of the things that we've kind of learned to do through doing this, which has been really great, is kind of like making our own equipment. I'm sure like a lot of you have had to make contact microphones and stuff like that within the course, probably. And like making cables and that sort of thing has been something that was completely new to us before. Yeah. We hadn't done that before we started doing this, but we taught ourselves through the internet and have developed a set of resources that we use to do this. So
yeah, and it's also a lot cheaper.
Yeah, it's better to make, and yeah, it's
better.
been amazing to learn how to do this.
Definitely.
Through doing it, it's kind of the best way to learn anything.
Yeah, it means it's not like a complete disaster if something breaks, because you just know exactly how to fix it.
Yeah, and perhaps that's another reason why making your own instruments is something that we do, because we're able to either start again or remodel or remake things that we've made already. That's the stuff in the van, the back of a van, the whole table, the first gig we ever did.
The notes on that slide is just logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
Which is basically when we need to go. Mosquito Farm in transit is a complete logistical nightmare.
Yeah. You can see we use sort of suitcases to travel around with. That's what we did today.
Yeah. We sacrificed your Uber rating, didn't we?
Yeah. That's us moving around LCC.
In LCC.
Not today though.
Oh, do you remember that cab driver from that time?
Oh yeah, it was raining. He was really upset.
Bolt driver. He was very upset.
So this was when we performed at Kraak Festival in Antwerp, and I suppose we were using this as an opportunity to talk about how we were able to do that, or what were the chain of events that allowed us to being able to perform in another country was, because we'd never performed outside of the UK or even London. Before that point. But it's a music festival that happens in Belgium, and it was really fun. So if anyone has the opportunity to go there, then I would recommend it. We'd performed a gig at Cafe Otto and
the first one.
Yeah, someone was there who was involved in the organising of this festival very vaguely, and we received a Instagram message, I think.
It was an Instagram.
Yeah, from the organisers of the festival we'd been recommended to through this guy. So I think we have a bit of a like say yes to all of the gigs policy now, because
Definitely.
I think from every single one something's happened.
Yeah.
That was
Just
positive.
snowballed a little bit.
Maybe not every gig. There have been some really bad ones as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But definitely most of them have resulted in something positive or another opportunity coming to us, or and I suppose having some sort of online or like social media presence, as much as I hate it with all my heart, honestly it has helped. Sadly these are some more photos from the festival that were taken by a professional, and all the audience looked really bored, and it looks really grey, and it was very grey, but I think people enjoyed it. This might not lead you to believe that, but I think people enjoyed it. This is our website again. This is a bit of a Maddie special. It's got the email on it. That's the most important thing. That's the other way that people contact us mostly, is via this email address that we have.
And then this is the online presence of our Instagram.
Yeah.
But
it withholds more than it gives. That's how we like it.
Yeah.
It's good enough. It does the
good
job.
enough.
If you don't like being, I don't like it. I don't like being on Instagram. But this is
We get messages.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way
We get
of
the
being
DMs.
there without. It might change, but it's good
doubt
enough
it.
for now.
Yeah.
We thought it was worth talking about this because we once got asked to perform as a duo within an improvised night. So it was other musicians. There was a trumpet player, a keyboard player. I can't remember what else there was in
how
that.
we got that. Did we?
Yeah, that was through a friend actually. But yeah, so we had to kind of incorporate what we did into a setting with people who were playing more conventional instruments, and we had no idea what was going to happen, and no one. You were kind of like blind date matched to people basically within the pool of performers. There was a lot of confusion, I have to say, from a lot of them. But this guy seemed to get it eventually. He worked it out. It was so funny. It was so good. It was like we had to completely like let go of control over like having any
Like knowing what was going to happen. Yeah.
No direction. No direction of control. But the experience of doing it was quite amazing. I think that's a good enough thing to be led by, as opposed to everything going really well all the time.
Yeah. It is good when it goes wrong. It is good. It is good. Sometimes.
And also, to be put in the context of more like conventional live music or improvised music. It's definitely confidence boosting in a way that you can still like be there with that in that world or something with all this stuff. And I think some of it sounded really good. But it was kind of, I think back on it like as quite a funny thing that we did. This is a collaboration that we did with a band that are called Gosh Son, which is our friends Mark and Richard, and they invited us to come in and do some recording on an album that they were making, and each track is a different
collaboration, isn't it?
Yeah.
Out yesterday.
Yeah, we recorded it in
You got the picture there, haven't you?
in Goldsmiths in the CCA, because me and Mark are technicians there. We like build exhibitions, so he managed to get us the bookable space. It was very difficult apparently, and so we set up again. They were performing. This was the first time we worked with someone using their voice.
Yeah.
We'd done a piece of writing, a kind of like poem, I suppose, and recorded that, and we played a selection of things that we'd built along with that. Spent about 5 or 6 hours recording this.
Yeah.
over
Richard
a
brought
day.
some instruments as well.
Yeah, there was a guitar involved at one point, some drum machines, and then the things that we'd made. It's probably one of the only pieces of recorded music that we have out, other than this this is a compilation that was put up by Seln, who are our friends who have a mostly techno label, and they put together a compilation of more disparate things than that. And we had 2 tracks on that, so I think maybe we could play some of them to you, and you can hear what it sounds like when we have what we do recorded. Is it? Yes, it works. So it's called The Last Londoner. And I actually own this. I do own it. I'm on it. Wait, can I not play them? God damn.
to play it in Antwerp in this bar. We got the whole.
That's the next song. Turn it off. It's not us. That's not us. Yeah, this is such a good story. Well, it's quite a funny story.
Yeah, we just where were we?
We were in a bar and we'd come to Antwerp to perform, and so the bar person asked one of our friends what we were doing in Belgium, and they said that we were we were in a band or whatever we were performing, and they said, "Oh, what's your music like? We'll play it on the."
And what were
bar.
they playing before? They were playing
I don't know,
like.
they were playing, I don't know, like some
like
pop
80s,
music.
yeah.
Yeah. And then they put that on really loud in the bar, and it was really.
It was so
It
funny.
wasn't what they'd expected, I think.
No, but people came up to us and like, did you make this music?
Oh
And
really?
Yeah,
I didn't
no,
see
tell
that
them.
happening. I just saw the barman look really embarrassed.
It was so
Yeah, sounds really good though.
Yeah.
So I've got to get out of this now.
Just over
There
there.
we go, yeah.
There we go.
That was us recording that with Gons, who runs partially, along with Conrad, the sound label. And since then we've kind of been able to record more on our own, just like with like one of these in the studio, coming straight out of the mixer and recording stuff in quite a simple way, and just editing it on Reaper.
Yeah.
It's not very complicated, but yeah, we're trying to be able to do that more ourselves now.
Even just to note it down for ourselves, I think.
Yeah, I think
that was-
recording's been quite useful
Yeah. Definitely.
in terms of working out, you know, what actually works, what actually sounds.
Not like being distracted by what all these things, by what they're all doing or what they're looking like.
Yeah, exactly. This was a performance that we did at Ormside Projects, which is a club in South Bermondsey.
With Sound and Gons and Conrad.
Yeah, it was the release night for that music that we just played. That was quite a serious performance, I remember.
It was a bit too serious.
Yeah,
wasn't
maybe maybe it was a blue light or something. It's quite a serious club, like serious techno music.
Yeah.
But and it was also I remember it was in December and it was quite empty actually.
And cold.
There's lots of photos of me. Okay, so these are images from a sculptural installation that we made, which was also quite interactive, in the set bar in Peckham. It's a ping pong ball spitting machine. And so
for public use.
Yeah, for the bar visitors, the bar goers to use. And we did it probably about
A year ago now.
a year ago. And it felt like I was talking about this earlier, it felt like translating the mood or the atmosphere of what we do when we perform into an object that was there when we weren't there to perform or be with it. Which kind of is quite different to another more conventional like exhibition set of objects that we made around the same time. And I was saying I thought this was a bit better. It was a bit more.
Yeah. We've done 3 art shows-ish together.
Yeah.
As working together. One predominantly only sculpture and installation. This was the 3rd one, where we actually made a piece together. The only one that we made an artwork together, I think. And then the other one was more a presentation of the instruments that you can see here. Yeah, like we said, we both come from BA sculpture courses. Maddie went to Wimbledon and I went to St Martin's. And yeah, you'd made a lot of kinetic work. I hadn't really before. I was much more focused on kind of like objects and space and like relation to like kind of object space and like subjectivities, and I kind of came into like doing all this like later once I'd already graduated, and this was it felt like a really nice midpoint for us to meet at, because we were looking at this space which was an old church hall that had been used for children's playroom. It had been used as a community centre, and it was kind of on the cusp of being turned into this set bar, which is quite like a, I don't know, it feels like a significant transition, like politically, socially, like that this community space, whatever that means, had become this new space, which is a space for different communities. And we found Maddie found a lot of stuff in the back room, Yeah, there was a big clear out.
A lot of ping pong balls, which is where they all come from. And this is a bit close up. So I wonder if these are some videos of it working, hopefully. So this is it installed. I wonder if we should take that microphone off the wall now. We don't need it anymore. Maybe if we turn it off. I'll rip the paint off the wall.
So maybe it is his lived experience.
That's so funny.
By the way, I've got a thing on the floor.
There's another video of it working in progress, which is quite good to see how it works. It's like 2 sets of wheels that push the balls out. That's one. Yeah. Yeah, it looks quite sort of benevolent, friendly thing from these videos, but I think actually people were quite annoyed by it ultimately, and it ended up being slightly more antagonistic than we thought, because there's people playing pool in there, people trying to relax,
guys didn't like it.
have it, socialise with their friends, and there would then be another group of people who would be using that, and those people would be kind of slightly at conflict with each other eventually.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think they also didn't like going around and picking up all the balls at the end of the night.
Also, they just disappeared. I think people just took them home.
People took them home. Yeah, definitely. And so, it had a really positive reception that kind of turned into a bit of a mixed reception, and then eventually it got turned off at some point. We don't know why or by who, but they've turned it off now.
Its ghost is still there. We need to.
I think it's probably one of my favourite things that I've ever been involved in making, for that reason. It had like a narrative arc in its life, and now I think it could keep going. It could keep going, but we probably need to come up with a better solution to refreshing the balls and the maintenance of it. It's quite a complicated thing, even though it's also quite a silly thing, but I think things can be really silly and really complicated. It's probably where we sit a bit. I've lost the use of the space bar. Come on. There we go. So this is
this is the one I was talking about, with it just being a presentation of all of this stuff, which eventually turned into a performance on one of the evenings. Less so a sculpture worked into the space, just shown as they are.
Yeah, and it was.
Oh, they were put on timers, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were put on timers and they played acoustically into the room. when we came and performed in this show, which was running for about a month, last February, we then set it up more like this and attached it with microphones, mixer, sound system, all of that. But yeah, I think kind of just plonking this stuff, not that was what we didn't plonk it in, but like it feels a bit like that now on reflection, like that this stuff for me personally, I think it exists best in the live moment, and exhibiting it on a timer, I don't necessarily think it's at its best at that point.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, but it was worth trying it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a well-funded exhibition that had been curated from the outside, and like we'd been invited to take part in it, which is also a different experience that I'd never had before, and an interesting one because like you can probably tell, but everything that we do normally and the kind of communities that we operate in, everything's like very much self-organized, and like the spaces that we perform in and exhibit in are like quite DIY spaces, and this was in a more official space, it felt like. And yeah, low battery.
Oh no.
I'll go get my laptop charger.
I think we're nearly done, aren't we?
I don't know. I can't remember. I can't remember how much more there is. I'll just get my laptop charger. You can carry on.
These are just the performance evening from that exhibition. Oh, this is the last slide, I think. This is Grace's. Grace works in an adventure playground with. Where is it? It's in St John's Wood, I think.
Yeah. I work across 2 adventure playgrounds. One of them is in St John's Wood. It's called the Adventure Play Hub, and the other is called Horniman's Adventure Playground. It's in Ladbroke Grove, and I've been working in these spaces for 3 years with a staff member at Central St Martin's who was one of my tutors when I was there, and we've been developing these projects that bring like our knowledge of kind of sculpture and making into the playground, and try and then learn how to apply it in the play context from the kids and the play workers there. So a lot of the time the projects that happen that are deemed as like art or craft projects within the playground will be like sat around a desk or a table with some beads or, you know, kind of classic craft stuff, which is cool. But I think we wanted to try and work out how we could maybe move the activities outside and get involved in more making with the kids, working out what they wanted to make, building stuff with them. We've done an archaeological dig. We've done this project, which was a sound project. We've made lots of structures and done a lot of kind of quite feels like they're really into like elemental play, like using water and and lots of mud. They made a pizza oven as well once. I wasn't there for that. About a year, I think it was about 2 years into having been running these workshops, and in that time having started working on Mosquito Farm with Maddie, that we thought it would be fun to try and do a few 3 or 4 day workshop in the adventure playground. And we brought lots of contact microphones that we'd made specially to use with them, and we waterproofed one and put it in a pond and they threw loads of stones in the pond. It's funny when you go, I don't know if you've ever been to like those like places where you can go and listen to a contact microphone in a pond and put headphones on, and you can hear like really quiet like the sound of insects or stuff like that. This was like they were just trying to make as much noise as possible and just throwing like rocks in, and like most of it sounds really like unbearable. And they made loads of guitars with apples. That was we found out that apples are
really good.
Resonant.
Yeah.
What have we got there? So this is some more images from that project. This was one of the kids who'd made this very beautiful guitar. and she doesn't really normally get that involved in what we do, because I think there are some kids that just think they don't like making stuff, or they don't like art or whatever. And this was an opportunity for those kids to come in, because I think some of them really like making a lot of noise, and they definitely had the opportunity to do that. And that was another sort of, I don't really know how to describe that object, to be honest, but it was kind of playable in many different ways, and it was completely made by one of the children. Everything about it was, kind of child-led. That was also like, she had no help making that. I think that's incredible.
It's like engineering. Look at that.
Yeah, I don't understand how that came about. It was also quite difficult in. I don't know how you found the experience of it.
The whole workshop.
Yeah.
I think as soon as kids see anything with buttons, it's they're like moths to a flame.
Yeah. A lot of like mashing stuff and like realizing that the contact microphone makes a sound if you hit it, and then lots of smashing them. These are some of the recordings,
I think so,
from that day, and I kind of edited them a bit, but I still haven't decided what should happen with them, to be honest.
Oh, that's so
You can hear it.
Don't tread in the flowers. What is that?
Headphones.
Yeah, that's the pond one I was talking about, where we had a waterproof contact microphone in a pond connected to a Zoom recorder, and then one of the kids would listen to that recording, and the rest of them would throw stones in the pond. I don't think there was any creatures living in it. I think they'd already poured loads of paint in it at that point. And there was a hose as well that was kind of making that other sound. And I'll play the last one. I really like these, so I'm going to play them all. Don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's good this time. There's quite a lot of my decision making in these edited versions because a lot of it was just complete peaking horrible sound, which a small amount of is okay, but it was sort of 6 hours of that and maybe 20 minutes of, or less, 10 minutes of more nuanced sounds, and I think the reason why I haven't decided, or like why we haven't decided with the playground what to do with them yet, is because it's quite complicated, like working out what your place is within stuff like this, in terms of when you start to bring your own like editorial decisions into something that you've made in this context, like cutting stuff down. I think it's okay for me to step in and say, okay, these are the bits that I like, and this is what I would do with them, and then I still don't necessarily think of it as my music in that context. I think of it as our music, or the music that the children made that is facilitated by us being there. But yeah, I guess the questions around like authorship of things are kind of important when you're working in groups with groups of people, and I suppose when it is accessible from beyond me and on my hard drive, I think it's important that it's not, playground music by Mosquito Farm or whatever, and that it's openly accessible to the people that took part in making it. I suppose where it ends up, or where it gets shown or where it gets played, is also important consideration in that process as well. There's also there's a lot of the children's voices in it, and in terms of photographs, we're not allowed to photograph their faces. I don't know about their voices as well. So there's a lot of things. It's more complicated than just plug in and go like what we have. Yeah, that's something to think about for me and for you and for the playground as well. There's just a lot of stuff. There's a lot of material that we have that is waiting, pending. But I think these sounds are very beautiful, and there's a lot of accidents and voices, and the sounds of the playground in amongst the sounds of the instruments. Actually, now it's been almost a year since we did it. I was really glad to listen back to it and hear all of those layers in it. Definitely. Cool. I think that's it.
That is it, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Woo! Thank you. Well, that's loud. Can you take that? Thank you. Thanks for bringing all the stuff here as well. I know it's not easy to carry stuff around. I think I've nearly broken my back several times trying to cycle to gigs with loads of stuff. So yeah, you do put your body on the line to bring things, even if it's in a suitcase. Wow, I made some notes on my phone, and I sort of need like 20 seconds to put my head back in the space. But maybe I'll ask a couple of questions, and then if anyone else has questions, that would be cool. And it would be, I think, as you've brought all the stuff here, it would be really cool if everyone, if you don't mind, if everyone like got a bit closer at some point and had a little look. So maybe we'll leave like 5-10 minutes at the end of the Q&A to do that. Just so that, you know, it's not like an abstract thing that's over there or on there. It's like, this isn't really a question, but something I thought was quite nice that maybe can be talked about a bit. But you've already talked about it as well. Is that like I've met both of you through you doing this, and for me, you sort of are like all of this stuff, as it's like always comes as one package. Like I was just thinking about it then, how for like most of this you've been able to hear like the whirring of one of like that particular one. And like at gigs where I've seen you, like I've often heard it going in the background of things, and like it feels like, I don't know, it feels really nice. It feels like it's like a part of you, and in the way that you like collect things. And when you showed those pictures of the boxes that you've organised, Maddie, I thought about that. Is it like a meme or a TikTok where like someone's dad's got like this one random shaped piece of wood like hidden in the basement, and they need it, and the dad's like, I've got the perfect thing. So like
that's our whole studio experience basically.
I guess in some like romantic story in my head, this is this is just like the reality of who both of you are, which is really cool. Maybe would you want to elaborate? Like, does it feel like that for you sometimes? Like,
I mean, the other day when we were going to get rid of this trolley, and I was asking if it was okay to get rid of it, the one that we used as an instrument once, and then you said, I said that I was gonna, maybe I'll just take the wheels off it, and then I can throw the rest away. And then you were like, I don't know, what are we going to use these? I don't know what I'd use these wheels for. And you were like, well, I was like, well, I'm just going to put them in my box of wheels. Like, obviously. I don't know what they'll be used for, but.
I feel quite lucky to have been allowed to like use your stuff, like use the stuff that you. I feel like my relationship to objects is like, I find like 4 a year that are like the special ones, and I create like these narratives around them, like these like they relate to like my belief systems about the world or something like that. And your relationship to the material is really different. Like I feel like my objects kind of like stand in for like people or society at large, or like value systems or something, and like yours have like this like really strong relationship to like the possibility of the material or something like that. And like I've been luckily allowed to like come in on that for this project and think about how, but that means that you're a very generous person because you've shared all this stuff with me.
It's just prepping for that like magic moment where like my box of brass metal all fits together into becoming a sculpture that doesn't make any sense, but it's all in brass, so that's all the sense it needs.
Perfect meme moment. I guess something
I had more pictures and I just didn't put them in. I wish I did now.
I wish you did, yeah.
There might be in there.
Do you ever think about like the objects and like what the lives they lived before they came to you? Because I used to be really into my whole like BA show was about this basically. It was about like objects and if they like what lives they'd led and how like those lives were imprinted on the objects. Is that something that comes up for you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I contributed to the object world was this bathroom extraction fan. You know, like it's like a landlord object in my mind. Like, put it in the bathroom, the tiny bathroom, so it doesn't get mouldy, but it probably doesn't work very well. And I think I bought it on eBay for a show for something else. And it's essentially exactly the same as all of these fans, but it's just in this ridiculous like white plastic case. And I don't know how much that really affects like how good it is at making a particular sound, but I just really like that it's a like rubbish landlord bathroom extraction vent sound thing now. So yeah, I think I definitely do. I think all of these fans as well, they seem like some so they've come to you in different ways.
And now they've been rigged up into something without their consent.
Yeah, exactly. The little green one especially, it's got
it's
like
really
it's creepy.
Really aggy.
I don't know, in the way that some child objects associated with childhood can sometimes take on something but a bit sinister. I always find that with that particular object. It used to have a little raspberry on it. I just thought it was really weird. Yeah.
I love that. Landlord object is a good phrase. All right, maybe I'll ask about something else and then open it up again to everybody else. But you already mentioned like DIY spaces and place, and like I guess there's so many in London actually when you think about it, and there's so many that exist in like very different communities of people and have like very different, I don't know, yeah, like sometimes they don't cross over that much actually. Like I've been to Limbo a few times and Set and stuff, but I don't think I've ever really been a part of that community of people, but I've been a part of other ones, and it's funny that they don't mix up that much, but I guess there's just so many people here that it's kind of impossible to be everywhere at once. And like, yeah, I guess could you talk about the importance of those places, and then also this kind of mindset of like doing it yourself? Like, I know you did some like music and sound stuff before, but like, do you feel like you've learnt loads about sound and like, yeah, I guess the learning experience and the social experience of being in like those communities of people?
Which spaces should we talk about?
Yeah, I think I was having a conversation with someone about this who also studied sculpture or fine art, I can't remember. They did a fine art course, and they also ended up predominantly making music. They studied a lot longer time ago, maybe in the early, like mid 2000s. So maybe, yeah, about 15 years before me. I graduated in 2019. But we were, saying about like this like shift that happened in both of our lives, where we decided that maybe it wasn't really we didn't really want to, not that we didn't want to make more conventional exhibition making projects, but that the spaces aren't there to do that in. And that is a shame, because like, I still like visual art. Like there's lots of visual art that I love, and it really influences what happens with this. But there's like music spaces and the communities around those spaces are more self-sufficient and more open to just someone coming along and seeing what happens, I think, in a way. Obviously, like, that's a very subjective thing to say, and like where I might feel comfortable, someone else might not, and that's or where I might be welcomed, I would say. But I think that generally there's like less pressure on those spaces because of that, like, longevity of, there's a lot of pressure on the spaces, but like the longevity of the work, the fact that you can have a bar, the fact you can make money on a bar and you can sell tickets, and all of those things. I think maybe the communities around the kinds of DIY spaces that we've been like invited into seem, have been really kind to us. And I think it's something that I think about a lot, really, the sadness that there isn't more space for exciting experimental DIY visual art practices to flourish. I think that's really sad, and I don't know if anyone else has any other ideas about that, but we all know why. It's because we live in London, and London is the way it is now, and it's really, really hard. It's hard enough to it's hard enough to keep a space open for gigs, so
and there's no money making in an exhibition, really, just time spent, I guess. And it makes the work act differently. Like you're maybe a bit more precious about it, about the work. Whereas if it's in a live context, it's done in a shot, and it's on to the next thing, which maybe makes you hang on to it differently, or makes it fresher. Sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's bad, I guess.
It sort of feels like within like exhibition making and visual art practices, there's like the kind of commercial gallery world, and like then there's like some publicly funded spaces, and there's a lot of commercial galleries and some publicly funded spaces, and they're just at capacity all the time, and then all the visual artists are like trying to scramble up to get to these things, and it's really hard, and it's not that nice sometimes, or it's not that friendly, or it's not that, it's also like completely unsustainable, like the way that those models of like businesses and the way that those spaces operate. I think that they're either like super financialized or like on a shoestring, like most publicly publicly funded galleries are, like, the smaller ones. And so there's something in being in more music or performance spaces where you can see that there's a little thing of like, okay, it's like on a much smaller scale, people can make it work a bit in a different way, in a smaller, self-organized way.
Feels like there's a gap for like a new or a different way of doing stuff like that, where like it's not about selling the artwork, but because I guess with a gig or something, you're, as a like consumer or whatever, you're paying for an experience. You're like coming and you're going, I'm going to experience a time-based phenomena. Whereas with it, but it's weird that people don't do that at exhibitions. Like, it's weird that you don't walk in the door and drop like £3 in a pot for the artist and say like,
I think it's
thanks
really
for
weird.
letting me be here for half an hour and like looking at all this stuff.
It would also change the time that people engage. The length of time that you engage with it for, and I don't know. Someone needs to come up. Someone needs to have a big idea. If anyone's got a spare room.
All right. Has anybody got any questions before I like keep rifling off? Oh yeah, cool.
Hiya. I got a question. Like, I really like how you bring this like DIY world, and you bring it to life through sound. And I guess from today, like, you've been reflecting on all of your work. How can you? Do you know how you would see your work in the future? sort of thing? Because you said at the beginning how, looking back on your very first gig, it was more sounds of hitting, more like physical sounds, creating sounds, and then now it's like more motorized elements. Is there any sort of element in the future that excites you about your work?
I don't know about looking into the future, but we said that we want to get a bit less serious, didn't we? Our past couple of shows have been quite like, from knowing what we're doing a bit more, I guess, maybe. We now really want to show all of these like bits of music that we've made, but in some, just like that ping pong ball exercise that we were doing, I think I'd like to loosen up a little bit, maybe, and I don't know.
Bring your body into it.
Yeah. Get a bit more silly.
Yeah, like more physical. Maybe more of those like performance parameters or structures. And we had quite an interesting conversation yesterday about like what we kind of both pull in different directions sometimes.
Yeah, we had a big fight, didn't we?
Yeah, we just I think we both like want to. Sometimes we want to move in different directions with something, and it's like trying to negotiate that is part of what makes it what it is. And like I would say that what we were talking about yesterday was like the element to which like something like a rhythm or something is sustained within it, because a lot of that was like stuff breaking down and then being remade within what we demonstrated for you, the rhythms of
the ping pong balls especially, wasn't it? It was that bit.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I would love it if it could stay in it for longer, and you were
the delayed part of it.
Yeah.
From the pedal.
And you were more interested in like the idea that it was like constantly regenerating as a thing, and like I think that's quite a classic point for us to reach, where we both want it to become something quite different. And so I think that the future is just going to be us constantly navigating that, amongst other things.
Yeah.
But it's really good. It's good to also just be like, oh, this is happening. Like, let's talk about it. What do we do next?
And it's the whole thing's gone in lots of different directions before, and I think I just want to keep on doing that. Really, like, not go too. I don't know. Keep it.
Yeah.
Up for anything. Not really. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It's quite like your chemistry works really well, but in different ways, so you never know the future, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's like a
Quite
really
nice.
good way of putting it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. You kind of touched on it a little bit. I was wondering, like, in the kind of realm of like your live performances, like what failure looks like for you, and like how you respond to like failure doing this kind of performance. Like, what is like, because I feel like in like band settings there's like kind of this way of, you're like, oh, this bit really sucked.
Yeah.
But like like how do you respond to that doing like this kind of performance, and like does it really change like a huge amount about it, or is it something where you're like, okay, that bit didn't work? Or
The biggest time that it didn't really work was fairly recently, wasn't it? At what's it called, the Book and Record Bar in, where is it?
It's in West Norwood.
West Norwood. And failure then looked like loads of feedback that we had no idea why. We had no idea why it was happening.
It's because it was a big wooden floor.
Yeah. We realised we were just
big
playing
hollow
on a
wooden
big
floor.
hollow
Yeah.
wooden floor. And an instrument broke halfway through. And then a contact mic broke halfway through as well. So we had to. It was quite difficult, but it was really good to feel what that feels like with loads of people looking at you. I guess we said that in what we thought it was really difficult, didn't we, and really hard, and like sort of a failure. But then maybe people were just being nice, actually. But they said it was okay. I think lots of the visuals carry it sometimes when it's when the sound's not working or something.
Yeah, or like stop people from leaving the room.
Yeah.
But I think what we would not like, the way that we'd structure a performance, or the way that we have recently structured them, is like we'll create sections of sound that are quite distinct from one to the next, and those can be anything between 3 or like a minute and 10 minutes long, and we always think of them as quite distinct, and they're quite heavily choreographed, and they're quite heavily composed in a way. Like there is definitely an order to it. Maybe because I guess there wasn't so much of that today because it was kind of maybe one section of a performance.
Yes.
But if something within that doesn't happen at the right time, or doesn't happen in the way that we'd expect, or takes a bit longer to kind of move into the next state, or then that, I feel like that probably feels like quite classic, like band failure or something. Like we didn't get the timing right, or like we didn't like like the thing wasn't loud enough, or like we couldn't hear it, or like all of those things. We definitely have that as well. Like
and responding to that, we've always said that we were going to try, and rather than choreograph each movement or something, or the timing of everything, we'd try and get an idea of where we would want to get to in a section, and what instruments we might get us there. So it's a bit looser in that whole section, and there's, I don't know, failure in that would be harder to achieve because because there's less. We've set less tasks for ourselves or something.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's a good question.
You kind of touched on kinetics a little bit, but I'm curious what you think the role of kinetics or movement is in your practice and in sound art in general.
For me, it's mainly to get a sustained sound that we can. It expands the amount of sound that we can produce, because we can just turn it on and leave it on, and then that's that. And then also it enables us to get different rhythms. We can using potentiometers, we can make them faster or slower and adjust them mid set. I don't know if you'd class the fans as kinetics. They're using motors, but they get different tones. So I guess maybe expanding the amount of sound, or it's just another element that
you use them a lot in your sculptural practice though as well.
Yeah,
I don't know how you would talk about them in terms of that.
I think I'm always trying to get like a piece of work to be doing something, so I don't know if it's just giving it a task or something. I don't know, it's a bit different in sculpture, I think. It's if going into this whole thing, it making a specific sound was sort of directed the way the thing looked, and now I don't really focus on so much as a sculptural thing, which has been quite a shift. Now if I think about what it looks like, it doesn't often doesn't sound very good or something. Yeah,
I think a lot of like your work involves a sort of like modelling or remodeling, or like almost like somewhere between like model making and drawing. And yeah, kind of thinking about that question that I kept asking when we were doing this, like, why would you remake the world? Or like, I guess that kind of relates to like, why would you use a motor from something else and put it in another object? A lot of them have like small technological or domestic functions. Some of these things, like air fans for your face, and it's kind of like really interesting, like taking apart all of these things and realizing what the components are. Actually, there's motors in almost everything.
I know, we play some of the instruments with a milk frother. Handheld milk frother, and it just, they all just make such tiny intricate little sounds.
Sort of like kind of like underneath the skin of lots of stuff that we use in our every kind of day lives. There are these objects are here, so these are they kind of relate to that, I guess, like these like unskinned objects, or
they're just
and in that way some of the sounds sort of sound like hums and like, washing machine sounds, or I think that's what, when you think about these like motors in sound art or something, that's a question. Like, I see a lot of motors being used in sound art installations in galleries, and I think sometimes I like it, but I think sometimes I also that's kind of why I was saying I was interested in like these maybe being more in like a live context more than a gallery space, or in terms of them as sound making objects. For me personally, I don't know, I think that they're like, they have like a very strong identity within the performance, and like they perform like we perform. But when I see your work, it's always within the context of like something that's like sort of representational of a thing or a vehicle or an object or a motion or a landscape or something like that. Like it's kind of like looking at a really simplified like viewpoint of being in the world, or seeing like
the first thing I made with a motor was rigging up a car freshener. And I was just trying to get that movement artificially through attaching it to a really like crusty old wire and knocking it with something that was on a motor. The movement of like trying to replicate this movement of this car freshener was the starting point, but then building around it took it in other directions.
I guess it's
maybe
like
drawing way.
Like it's like quite referential to other things or other experiences, whereas this is very like not referential to any other experience other than this one in the room, like watching us perform. So maybe that's like a kind of difference between the two things. But
Thank you. Very interesting.
There's no questions in the chat, but Paul Muggery says this is just great.
Thanks, Paul.
There's 4 minutes left until we have to pack up. Does everyone want to have a look?
Grace, you can sing now if you want.
No.
Do people want to go and have a look at that stuff? And if anyone's got a question whilst you're doing that, maybe just grab the mic off me or Annie and talk into it so that people online like Paul can hear what you're asking.
I think
It's really